Good morning, Rebecca. How are you?
Well, I was great until I saw the score on my exam for the executing process.
Rebecca, this is a very good score for your first try on that process group. It's way above average.
But I missed quite a few questions.
Yes, you did. And now we're going to learn about why you missed them and what the correct answer is. Then you're going to take this exam again and score higher on it. We don't expect perfection the first time, Rebecca. No one gets 100% on our exams on their first pass.
Really? Okay, well, that makes me feel a lot better.
Good. I see you took 48 minutes for the exam, and you could take a little bit longer. You have 12 minutes on the plate. We'll watch that, okay? Now, let's scroll past the questions you got right and go to the first ones you got wrong. That's number 8.
Yeah, I really goofed this one up. So, because he came from a functional department, I should have talked to the functional manager. Only if I was working with a projectized team could I send them to training myself, correct?
That's exactly correct. As the answer explanation says, every time you look at a question, you need to ask yourself, where am I? That will give you the context of the question. As you said, when you're in a functional organization, your answers will be different than when you're in other kinds of organizations. Are you clear on why your answer was wrong and why the correct answer is correct?
I am, yes. And I won't make that mistake again.
Okay, now let's scroll down to question 15. That's the next one you missed. Why do you think you missed this one?
Well, do I have to memorize all this garbage?
No, I don't want you to try and do that. What I want you to learn is the content of these plans. What does the staffing management plan have in it?
What skill sets I need and how many hours.
And where am I going to use the fact that I need 3 systems engineers for 100 hours?
When I'm acquiring my resources.
Exactly right. Now let's move on to number 18.
I don't see why I got this one wrong. I think my answer is as good as answer B.
I won't disagree with you, but PMI says that priorities, then schedules, and administrative procedures are the biggest causes of conflict. So we just have to agree with them. It is their exam, after all.
Ugh, yuck.
I agree with that too. Let's skip ahead to number 20 now.
So, should I be reading the answer explanations on the questions I got right?
Yes, particularly if you're at all uncertain about why your answer was the correct one. That's one of the major ways you learn in this course.
I see. Okay, I get a question wrong. I understand why, and that way I don't miss it again.
Correct. Now let's go ahead and look at the next one.
Okay. I always get these wrong about the parts of quality control.
Here's how to think about it. Quality control is done by a team of people who are counting and measuring things. They just gather and report data, so it's part of the monitoring and control process, just like gathering status reports is. Quality assurance, on the other hand, is where we use that data to implement changes and improvements to the processes. So that's part of executing.
Uh,
Okay, we're ready to start scope management, but I have to report to you that the camera crew may be a little surly this morning. It's early. They were up late last night in Vail, dancing, drinking, God knows what they were doing. Well, I was back in the hotel studying the PMP. So anyway, they may be a little surly today. We're going to talk about scope management, and scope management is very central because a lot of the rest of our planning, which starts when the charter is issued, has to wait on the scope statement or on the WBS. And the combination of those two things, the scope statement and the work breakdown structure, plus the WBS dictionary, those three things are called the scope baseline, and it's what this knowledge area produces step by step. So we're going to start on scope management, understanding that quality, cost, time, procurement, and risk all have to wait for the outputs from this process. That's why I say scope management is very central. There are a lot of exam questions about that. Is what processes have to wait for the scope statement, or what can I start once the scope statement is issued? Anyway, scope management starts with the charter being released and approved, and that takes us into project planning, that process group, and then we do the scope processes, and when we issue the scope baseline, then a whole lot of other stuff can start. Now, the first thing we do in scope management doesn't have a process. It's the scope management plan. How much scope management we're going to do, how big is the work breakdown structure going to be, and who's going to participate in putting it together. Just like all the other processes, we're going to have a scope management plan even though there is no separate process for generating it. That's what starts first, and then we go into our requirements gathering. All right, our first scope process, and again, what we're going to do is determined by what we put into the scope management plan, is to gather requirements. Now, this is not the sort of requirements gathering process you may be used to. We're not going around asking everybody to submit their wish lists. We're going around to our stakeholders, and we know who they are because that identify the stakeholder process started during initiation. And that's one of the key inputs to gathering requirements, is who the stakeholders are. The other one is, of course, the charter, which tells us what business outcome, what the success criteria for the project are. And those two are used in gathering requirements. The requirements we want to gather are the deliverables, the specific, measurable deliverables that are necessary to deliver the business objective of the project. And
oh, my goodness.
Oh, you startled me. Well, I am just making sure that everything that should have started actually has.
Well, sorry, but from the look of all this paperwork and piles of it, it looks like we've got some bad news. What's gone wrong?
Actually, nothing. Things are going surprisingly well. So this stack is completed deliverables, just updated documentation and performance information, work performance information. So people are delivering as scheduled. It's good news.
Good news, huh? What's that big stack?
Oh, these are corrective action documents. So they talk about a problem that the team solved without altering the plan. Also good news.
So what's the other stack? More good news?
Some yes, some no. These are approved change requests. They were processed with integrated change control.
So those change requests are bad news?
Some are, some aren't. There is one task that we underestimated, and this change request alters the finish date.
What? We can't even finish 1 minute late.
We're not going to. I'm doing the critical path analysis so I can assess the impact. So I can give data to Mac and he can make a decision.
Okay, that's a relief. What's that last small stack?
These are requests for preventative action. You know, where a team member finds a way to...
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, you startled me. Well, I am just making sure that everything that should have started actually has.
Well, sorry, but from the look of all this paperwork and piles of it, it looks like we've got some bad news. What's gone wrong?
Actually, nothing. Things are going surprisingly well. So this stack is completed deliverables, just updated documentation and performance information, work performance information. So people are delivering as scheduled. It's good news.
Good news, huh? What's that big stack?
Oh, these are corrective action documents. So they talk about a problem that the team solved without altering the plan. Also good news.
So what's the other stack? More good news?
Some yes, some no. These are approved change requests. They were processed with integrated change control.
So those change requests are bad news?
Some are, some aren't. There is one task that we underestimated, and this change request alters the finish date.
What? We can't even finish 1 minute late.
We're not going to. I'm doing the critical path analysis so I can assess the impact. So I can give data to Mac and he can make a decision.
Okay, that's a relief. What's that last small stack?
These are requests for preventative action. You know, where a team member finds a way to reduce the probability or the magnitude of a risk by taking a few preventative steps. Also good news because we want people to anticipate problems.
Hey, our new website is a home run. You two can check off another deliverable by the correct communications team.
Wow.
And give me all the credit, huh? All right.
Okay.
Wait, one more thing. We are done 3 days early. Shazam.
Good job.
Well, I just heard that Dwight lost some of his people and we're going to be 3 weeks late.
Oh.
That is totally unacceptable.
Oh, no. We cannot be late. We cannot be late on this project at all.
Well, let's not overreact, guys, because this is just performance information. Dwight has lost 3 people, and if we don't do anything about it, then he will finish 3 weeks late.
You know, as I recall, we have a planning response in the risk management that deals with the turnover among Dwight's people.
I do believe you're correct, Betty. We do have a risk response laid out for such a situation.
The book is very different because it's organized around the stories of 3 different projects of different size and scope. And you follow each of those projects through the entire life cycle, all 43 processes that are covered by the exam, and you learn by seeing and watching a project manager, team members, and sponsor actually do each of those 43 processes, and you see the outputs and how they created them. As an example, there's a whole chapter on initiation, where we give you a high-level flow chart and the major steps in the process of initiating a project. Then you'll see a brief section on each of the major documents in this process. The write-up tells you who produces the statement of work. We'll also give you the same information about all of the other documents and outputs that are created during the course of a project, like the business case. Then we'll get down to the individual processes, like identify stakeholders, and we'll show you what the inputs are, what tasks and techniques we use, and what outputs we create. Next we come to the 3 project examples of how you would identify your stakeholders on a small project done within a department where your boss is the sponsor, and a medium-sized project where several departments in the organization are affected, And finally, a large consulting project that is done in an international corporation with lots of sophisticated techniques. By seeing these processes and their inputs and outputs done by project managers and hearing how they're presented, you're able to recall all this information when it comes to answering questions on the exam.